I would like to thank our partners that extended their support to this event. Associate partners MENA Clean Energy Business Council, CETA EV Charger, who is also the panel sponsor on day one. Supporting associations: the European Association for Electromobility, Electric Drive Transportation Association, Electric Vehicle Association of Thailand. And the supporting partners: Qatar Solar Energy, Fin Value, Electroheads, the Brattle Group, Rare Group, A Great E Incorporated, and our media partner, Circuit Digest.
Thank you very much for this introduction, and pleased to join here at the conference of today. So a short word about our organization itself. So we're already active since '78, and it sounds quite remarkable when you think, what was the reason that we've been founding in the late '70s? It was actually one of the first oil crises worldwide. So in that time, our founders, mainly academics, were thinking about an alternative. And so the association was founded with looking for all alternatives to oil products. Today, the association has been growing and is now a broad network with direct members, which are national associations representing their country, but then also industry members, and then the direct industry members and EV users as well. So we have the full broad aspect of all the value chain of the e-mobility sector among us, working to make it happen. So what's our challenge? Speaking on behalf of AVERE, as we indicated, the European Association for Electromobility, we have a high focus what's going on the European market, but with these numbers I also want to trigger the challenge. So it's a bit, can we see this change also happening in other parts of the world? So we have a lot of internal combustion engines driving around in Europe. It's a significant number, and we have to ramp up. We want to go for full electrification, and that's also what policymakers now are tending to do: zero emission transport. Now, what are the targets in the European Union? We have seen a lot of things happening in the news, COP26, etc. Well, what is in the black line in this graphic is what is going on. And the green line is actually where we think it is going with the current measurements, with the current policies. And the red line is definitely where we have to go to. This is also agreed in the Agreement of Paris, the COP Agreement of Paris, the 100% reduction of all greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. So we need to ramp up, therefore we have new policy measurements. Now, a small reminder why we go for electrification and why we go for the battery electric vehicles, definitely for cars, also duty vehicles, and I think already a part of trucks and buses can be electrified as well. You can also find it in the mentioned study here on the screen. Now, a battery electric vehicle is the best solution, and if you can feed it, if you can charge the car with renewable electricity, then you have absolutely the best solution in all aspects. So that's why we keep on focusing on this one, and this is also why the energy efficiency is the most significant and the winner of this case. If you can talk about winners, I think we need also to recognize the complementary. Now, where are we today? We saw a high number. We have now in 2021 pure electric vehicles, 2,175,000 registrations this year. If you want to see more data about what's going on in Europe or what's going on in the different countries or member states, as we call them, you can definitely look at the website as indicated here, the eafo.eu. We also see a significant growth of plug-in hybrids, so the internal combustion combined with a small battery electric vehicle. We expect that this will phase out soon, as we don't see that as a prominent solution on the long term. Also, with the new measurements coming, there is little chance that the plug-in hybrid electric vehicle can stand alone. What is the different in the countries? Very good news, and from our perspective is that indeed now Germany is taking the lead. That has not been done since years, but definitely now in 2021 that you see that the highest registrations of electric vehicles is happening in Germany. And this goes along with the availability of the electric vehicles. So we see here a significant growth in the possible cars that you can buy, and this is also key to success. People won't have different specific models for their own use. Now, what it's a warning that we see here, and this is a clear focus in this graph on the European models. We see a big threat coming from the Chinese markets. Many car brands that are dominant or prominent present in China are really looking to the European markets to expand their production. And we know already some of the names from the Geely group, Polestar, we hear now XPeng, Dangfeng coming, iWays. They are really hitting the European markets and starting mostly in the Nordic countries, because on the Nordics, Norway has the highest electric vehicle penetration of all Europe. Now, electric vehicles goes also hand in hand with charging points, and there we see that also this is growing steady. So we see that the growth of electric vehicles is going hand in hand with the growth of electric charging points, which is necessary. We always see this discussion going on from the chicken and egg. Well, it's going hand in hand, and that's actually what we need. We see a different aspects in the markets, however, and we see the highest penetration of charging points in the Netherlands. Now, maybe a short word about that, because we really get a lot of questions. Yeah, but how many charge points do we need? And it's always that question from numbers. Well, we are not so fan of these numbers aspects. If you really already look to Europe, in Norway, 80% of the people charge at home or at work. And it has to do because of the possibilities of the access at housings, but also at work. In the Netherlands, they don't have that, so they need a higher penetration of public charging points, and that you see also in the number. Secondly, it's also a question of policy measurements. The Netherlands has a clear target to phase out completely by 2030, and they have set out a national plan for charging infrastructure, and they want to have 1.8 million charging points installed by 2030. If you put aside Norway, that number is less significant, just coming back. Most of them charge at home or at work, and you see a different behavior. Now, this number is going good. It's going in the good direction, and the most member states have significant plans to assure this growth. Now, key to success, and we see the success of the EVs ramping up. We see the success or the significant number going up from charging points. This is thanks to the development of the battery technology. So battery pricing, better density, which automatically gives us a better range and also improved charging speeds. Now, important to see is that we also expect a shift of the battery production finally to the European markets. Currently, if you look at the battery development or the battery production in the world is mostly happening in the Asian part with a high take-off, again, on the Chinese markets. Now, here you see a very good overview of the planned gigafactories in Europe. Don't forget, some of these owners or these initiatives are also taken from the Chinese markets, CATL or BYD, but also from Japan and Taiwan. This is good, this initiative, because we don't need to ship and we can have the production here. The supply chain becomes shorter, and this also is the question about the transition towards reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, so more to the decarbonization aspects. Now, we see if this market is really ramping up, and that's what we definitely expect to see worldwide. We see also that we have a lot of spent batteries. We can expect that some batteries will end up in second life purposes, but some of the batteries will just be recycled. And this is actually visible in this graph. So this is the amount of spent batteries that we expect to come by 2035, by 2030. So this means end of life of the electric vehicle. And the highest stake here is by the electric car by 2040. Now this means a lot because so here is also a policy about recycling. We definitely see a push also on European policy that every battery that comes in the European Union or is produced in the European Union should be recycled or be traceable. Of course, I say it in a way, it's on the wrong way. It should be in the first place traceable, and in the second part, it should be fully recyclable. And also this technology is ramping up. We see the aspect of recycling really happening, but also we see there that we need to ramp up. Recycling 100 EVs is not economically feasible, 1,000 not either, but it's only once we start to talk about 1 million and so on and so on. Then, and that's, I think, is one of the most important graphs that we have currently are seeing, is the world policy and the internal combustion engine phase out. So I think for everybody, it's really important to know what is going on policy measurements. Norway is banning internal combustion engine sales by 2025. There is many countries which are following by 2030. This graph is maybe a bit outdated. Currently being in Belgium, we see also now announced for 2029. You see that these policy measurements are ramping up all over the world. And for us, our perspective as the association, this is really good, because this means that people really understand what decarbonization of transport means, what we need to do as well. But this means also that the industry have to make the significant shift and ramping up on this. But this goes definitely among the different countries. Also here, it's an overview on worldwide from the International Energy Agency. On the left side, you see what is currently going on by 2020. In the next two blocks, or the two lines, you see what's on the current policy measurements. So we see by 2030, we're going to have a share of EVs by 16%. Especially for Europe, and this will be ramping up in the next block by the development scenario, the policies that are on the way, are oncoming. So we see a significant growth in different markets, also in the US, and therefore you see that policies are key to decarbonize the transport sector. The change of the presidency makes also this significant, important race. Now, there is also a lot of questions and also critics. Yeah, but we cannot power the grids. If we all gonna charge, we will have blackouts, etc., etc. Now, the good thing is that an electric vehicle you can actually do on smart charging, and then the overall race of energy demand when we get fleets electrified will be expected about 10%. And a 10% higher electricity demand is not so significant compared with the other demand of the race, or the expected race of the electricity grid. So overall, we're quite positive. And the second aspect is that also the electric vehicle can be part of the solution. This means if you have really a lot of electric vehicles on the road, and let's take a number of 1 million, an average of them are only 5% of the time on the road. or actually over the lifetime. So we know that a lot of these cars are standing still. If you think about the smart charging, but also the vehicle to grid aspect, if all these cars are connected, you can also use them as a storage place. So if we have too much wind or solar energy, we can actually incentivize the electric vehicle as a storage point. And this is what we're going to need, but this is also what the technology allows us to do. Therefore, with AVERE, our organization, we are collaborating with other Brussels-based associations. There is Euroelectric, but there's also Wind Europe, Solar Power Europe, all organizations that want to go for full electrification, because we see that this is the outcome to go. 100% electricity is the most energy efficient way to go forward in all industry branches. Now, a short word about the EU policy. Maybe you have heard about a Fit for 55. This is a proposal from the European Commission to decarbonize by 2030 the greenhouse gas emissions for all industries by 55%. And there is a lot on the things on the agenda, differentiated in different regulations. This is a short overview of what happened last year and what we are going towards this year. I don't going to go into deep detail, but there is also what you see for the end of this year or in the beginning of next year is new standards again. Again, indeed, some industry says, we just are in line with the previous one and now we are imposing already new ones. This is really happening. What I mentioned earlier, from connecting the cars towards the grid, and the vehicle to grid or the V2X technology will be taken in the EPBD. EPBD is the Energy Performance Building Directive. So by law, it will be obliged to connect or to have the potential, if you have a vehicle or a parking in your building, that it should be connected and that it should be possible, and at least it should be smart charging. So these are key files that are important. A bit detail, so the new CO2 emission standards for car and vans, and there is a clear phase-out date planned for 2035. So then the European Commission wants to have really the end of sales of internal combustion engines. However, what we are seeing is that there is no interim target. So we see that this switch could be just expected by 2035. However, we see also the industry response, and it could be possible that this has been done before. There is also another important change, and maybe many of you don't know it, but before we had an alternative fuels infrastructure directive. So everything was an alternative fuel compared with petrol-based vehicles was covered by the alternative fuels infrastructure directive. And this directive means, it words it itself, it gives a direction how to treat it. But this becomes regulation. And regulation means binding targets for everyone. So even also for heavy duty vehicles. So it means that there is a high expectation, or not an expectation, but demand that that trucks also will be electrified. There is clean targets how charging points should be developed. Also how your charging points could be accessible. There is a high complaint now from the user perspective that you cannot just pay by a card. You cannot pay everywhere by a bank card to charge your vehicle. Is this necessary? Is not necessary? This discussion is going on, but at least they are addressed. There is also a key plan on what we call the 10T network. It's actually all the corridors, all the big highways between the different countries in Europe. They should have every 60 kilometers high-powered charging points. And the definition is very clear. It shouldn't be only one. We really see hubs of charging points, and the energy forecast should at least be the minimum current standards from 350 kilowatt. So there is a clear view in the European Union how we go forward to this. A small reminder on this. We see, or we are confronted with a lot of studies, with press releases, with always negative aspects of electric vehicles. Yeah, but if the grid is powered by coal, yeah, but the batteries are so dirty, you cannot recycle them. we try to collect all these aspects. I think for us, it's really, really key that we have a neutral-based reference. And therefore, we are working or we operating the World Electric Vehicle Journal. So these are scientists with peer-reviewed studies that cover all these aspects. So if we demand for policy measurements, or if we defend the e-mobility case, we have very good references. A key to success of this journal is also the symposium. So we do a call for papers on an electric vehicle symposium. This is already running since '69 to actually add to technology development. And the presence of industry and the scientific world is coming together at AVERE. And this makes also the development of e-mobility happening. So we really need this to debunk the myths and raise public awareness what it actually means and which way we should go forward. Therefore, actually, I want to conclude also my presentation. We know what is going on, and we know what the climate change is causing. And just sitting there on the side and just, yeah, but it's too difficult, and yeah, but do we really need to, or it's going too fast? No, please, the technology is there. We know what we need to do. We know how we can do it. All the aspects are there. So I please invite you all, just do it. Everything is impossible. Thank you very much.